James. It's great to have you on Tech Labs and Bytes. So could you just tell us a bit of how you got into the tech industry? Like, what really inspired you to get into the tech industry?
Yeah, it's actually a very funny story. So it
Okay.
was years ago, around the 2009 or something.
Okay.
I was on holiday. It was during the strike period, and
Okay.
I was busy. I was just like a very good student. I was busy preparing for the next semester. I was reading my book. Then within like a month, I've already finished the syllabus for the next semester. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to a cousin of mine, and I was like, I would like to learn something different. So
Okay.
it gave me so many options, that networking, programming, stuff like that. And I'm like, this programming sounds a bit more difficult than the networking. I think I want to do something that is much more difficult, because I do want to, keep reading and stuff like that. So it felt way more difficult than the programming and networking. So I decided to,
Okay.
get started on the programming, and here I am today. So thank God for strike, so to say.
So
Yeah.
you decided to go for something harder. Why is that?
Because, like I said, the my reason for learning programming wasn't because I wanted something that's challenging. Because, like I said, it was out of a bit of boredom. So
Okay.
if I pick something simple, then within two
Uh-huh.
months or so, I'll be done with it. That kind of thing. So I wanted something more challenging, and programming just seems to offer that at that point. Yeah.
Okay. And what programming language did you start with?
Oh, I started with Java. That was where I
Oh,
started.
what?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, as a 2009, I think it was like possibly the most popular language as at that time. So it kind of makes sense to pick Java. Yeah.
And what was the first application you ever built with Java?
The first one I actually remember was the one I built for my lecturers at school. So as
Okay.
at 2009, most of the lecturers were using Excel to process,
Mhm.
student results. And the problem is that the first semester is always very easy, but after spending like 5 semesters in the school, 2 or 3 years, there's so much accumulation that goes on. And this teacher spends so so the first
Yeah.
play with Excel, talking all of these features. So the first application I built was actually from a lecturer of mine, so I gave it to him that time. And within like few minutes, all the things he
Mhm.
spent like a week to do, you know, gets it immediately. So yeah, that was actually my first application. Yeah.
Oh, also, I can only imagine how you made your lives easy. That.
I think the only thing I wish that the old school adopted it, but it requires lots of like politics to get the old school to adopt it. But for my lecturer at that time, it was a big time saver for him. So yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So this is really interesting because I'm just curious to know if you could remove one programming language from existence, which one would it be?
JavaScript.
Why? Okay, I'm biased. Sorry. Okay, but why? Why did you choose JavaScript?
It's like there's so many. It feels like something that was just act together. Which actually that was literally, yeah. So it feels like something that was just act together, put together. And it kind of there's so many ways you can shoot your leg. What is it called? Yourself at the foot with JavaScript. So many very wrong way things works. So yeah, it's like even without the types, just I can't just keep going on. The problem with JavaScript is just too much, and I think it got really worse with the adoption
Mhm.
of web. So it took something that was just literally cooked up together, becoming before Python one of like the most used programming language for a while. So yeah, yeah, I'm definitely picking JavaScript. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so how many times have you copied code from Stack Overflow?
Of course, not anymore now with the advent of ChatGPT.
I know.
Yeah, but I think because when I started often, when I started at the early stage, I
Mhm.
I copied, of course, but I can't say often because generally I've always been a guy that likes to do stuff like in such a like in a very different way.
Okay.
So when I see stuff on Stack Overflow, I hardly copy even when I was starting up. But I remember when
Yeah.
I was starting up, I tend to go to more of a Stack Overflow, but even then I hardly copy it because I always try to like I said, this thing started from me challenging myself. I wasn't just trying to just copy and paste. So yeah, so my inspiration makes it in such a way that copying does not give me what I really wanted. So yeah, so I would say very few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, did you fully understand the code you copied whenever you copied it?
Oh, I remember it was very difficult. I remember it was very, very difficult because I remember sometimes I would just get angry, shut down my laptop for a period of time, and not touch it for like 2 days and come back, the third day and over there, you understand. So there were times
Yeah.
where, like I would say I didn't understood it, but like I said, I was intent on understanding it. So I would like shut down my laptop, then come back after those some days to understand what was going on. But maybe I could say there are probably one or two times that I've copied a code from Stack Overflow when I was probably starting up. I didn't understand what it was doing, but I just
Mhm.
wanted, okay, I can see this function. I can. So it was more about the intention, so I could understand the intention of the function. Or maybe there were
Yeah.
some requests somewhere that I really didn't understand. I'm like, okay, as long as it does the job, that's fine. Okay, so yeah, yeah.
Also, so I mean, if you had $1 for every time someone said it actually works in my machine, how much would you be? How rich would you be now?
I think this was. I think if you asked this question like let's say 7 years ago, maybe I would have been a millionaire. But yeah, but so there is a
Yeah,
Docker now. So we have Docker containers
yeah,
now. So
yeah,
since Docker came up, that's never been a problem anymore. So it's like if it's being containerized 9 out of 10 times, it will definitely work. So yeah, that kind
yeah,
of thing to okay. But years ago, that was like always something. Oh, this work on my local system, but it's not working there and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Although if you use Python, you may still experience stuff like that, but like that's on few occasions. So yeah, yeah.
That's great. I mean, Docker is kind of like the lifesaver when it comes to containerization. So yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
So, I mean, with all of, so for example, you're working in a team and you're like, I want to scare developer, right? I want to really scare them. So I'm going to tell them we are migrating, maybe to a new framework. So what's your tactics if you want to scare maybe like a junior developer or, because obviously you are a senior developer. So it's
Yeah.
like, what will be your tactics? What will be your, what part of the software development cycle would you use to scare them?
Hmm. I think sometimes, for instance, I've worked few times with Angular. Even though I'm mostly a backend engineer, I've worked few times with Angular, and I know if you want to
Okay.
migrate maybe from Angular 8 to Angular 19, it's something
Okay.
that has lots of like, it's yeah, dependency cycle. A lot of things have been removed. So mostly when you
Yeah.
want JavaScript environment, JavaScript ecosystem, and you want to migrate something, it's always not very straightforward, that kind of thing. So I think one easy way to scare them, like, okay, guys, we have this project that is 10 years old written in JavaScript, but now I want to migrate it to a new framework like React, or maybe even a new version of that same framework. So yeah, that would
Yeah.
definitely take some time. So yeah, that's a very good way to get them, very scared. That's yeah, of course. If you want to move to if you want to move to Kubernetes, that's also one way to like, get them scared of, that kind of thing. So yeah, yeah, there are few little ways to get them scared, but let's just stick with the migration of a JavaScript project. Yeah.
JavaScript projects.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So for instance, if you were, because you talked about using migrating to JavaScript, to make them scared. How would you? Which is preferable? Would you prefer to explain to a junior developer on how recursion works, or would you prefer to tell a senior management stakeholder management team why the project was delayed? Which one would you?
Okay. That's a very tight one. That's a very tight one. Oh my god. Okay. The good news is that I work with very smart junior developers, so I want to do it, teaching them how recursion works. So yeah, I think I will go with the
Recursion.
yeah, good recursion. Yeah,
That was
yeah.
a smart choice, though.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're using GitHub, what's the worst commit message you've ever seen? Either maybe you were the one who actually committed that message, or you saw someone commit a message.
Okay.
What's the worst commit message you've ever seen?
Uh, fix. So the first one, yeah, yeah. So I
You
just
serious things.
yeah, yeah, that's it. So, yeah, that's like the that's like the most ambiguous. Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, fix, yeah, and we do that a lot. Of course, I don't do that in my when it comes to like big projects because every big project everything has to do with the task. So you have Jira and stuff like that. But when it comes to like personal project and stuff, easily you just like fix and just push it. So yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And what's the best GitHub commits message you've ever sent?
That's a very tight one. I think most it has to do with the layout. So the best ones I see is of course you put your ticket and you put your project, the ticket
Uh-huh.
number, and exactly what you're trying to solve. So I've seen several versions of that, and that which is like the standard. So to me, I
Okay.
feel like that's like the standard of kind of commit messages I see. So I'll pick that as the best. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I agree as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Okay. So now I believe that every programming language has its own personality.
Mhm.
if if we agree, if we both agree that programming language has its own personalities, which one would you say is a troublemaker among all the programming languages we have?
Hmm. Troublemaker, troublemaker, troublemaker. I think I would say troublemaker. That's a very good question. Troublemaker. Hmm. Let me think about that.
Okay.
So, so if I want to define, I think the question is that what kind of trouble are we talking about here? So maybe difficult to compile or takes long to compile.
All the troubles, all the headaches you feel whenever you use this programming language.
Scala. Go for Scala, yeah. Scala, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. And
yeah.
which one would be the peacemaker?
The peacemaker, PHP.
Serious? Oh,
I don't like
wow.
as much as I don't like PHP. I think PHP is one of those languages where I think everyone understands it. It's a very terrible language in most cases, but it's one of those languages where it's very easy to understand. So in a way, the funny thing is that there are cases where PHP becomes a troublemaker because it makes it easy for people to write spaghetti code, like very dirty code. But in a way, it's also like a peacemaker in the sense that it's easy for everybody, like newbies, to get started on, very, very easy to get started on. So in a way, it's a peacemaker in the sense that it's easy to pick up. Troublemaker in
Yeah,
the sense that it can easily get what's it called? It can easily get into spaghetti code.
yeah.
Scala is a troublemaker in the sense that even if you are a seasoned programmer, sometimes you will see some Scala code and you have to calm down, try to understand what you're trying to what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on that note, I'll pick Scala, but in the same, but yeah, so in a way, that in some cases Scala, in some cases what's it called? Yeah, PHP. Yeah, yeah.
PHP and Scala. Okay, so the troublemaker and the peacemaker.
Peacemaker. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's your secret technique for fixing bugs you don't understand? Because there's some of all those bugs, trust me, they do look like they are in a different language that you're not probably conversant with. But what's kind of like your secret technique? So speak the field.
The first things are logs. So logs are your best friend. So what you want to do first is to like get as much as possible log as you want on that stuff. And of course, there's the ideal world and there's the real world. In the ideal
That's-
world, you want to have as much log as possible, but in some
yeah.
cases, you may not have that what's it called, that log. So the next thing I do
Okay.
is isolate that what's it called? If it's possible, isolate that either the class, the system, isolate it in such a way that you're not trying to
Okay.
worry about every other stuff. So you want to make sure that, okay, this is this class, how does this class behave? But it gets very dicey because sometimes when you isolate it, it might work. But by the time you
Mhm.
push it back into the system, it may start behaving separately. But the first you want to do that, the first step is you want to look at the logs, you want to isolate the system. So if you
Okay.
understand the way the system is working in isolation, then you want to like gradually keep stitching it back together. Say, okay, when it's in this particular scenario, what makes it break? You understand? So from there, you want to keep overlaying, and stuff like that. So that's always the way I always, when I see a bug, there's like, okay, in some cases it could just be as simple as just debugging and
Yeah.
stepping to the Stack Framework. You can't do that most times with production code bases. So, like I said, your best bet is to look at the logs. So then from the log, isolate the system. In some cases, you can dump. If you depend on the stuff, you can dump the stack trace, which also gives a way
Mm.
for you to look exactly into what function was called, into how the system worked during that period of time. But the
Yeah.
first thing before you start, even before you start isolating the system, you can also like dump the stack trace. But those three combined together most times tends to do the job. But there's some cases where you just have to go and take water and come back, So
I know. Right? And how do you handle those? I do, hear a lot of developers say, well, if my code breaks, I would just, take a really short time and, go do something else and then come back to it. What's the secret behind that? And then all of a sudden, when they come back to it,
yeah.
it works. How? Like, what's the secret?
I think I keep telling I said our brain is a giant neural network basically, and I feel
Okay.
like sometimes based on some environment,
Okay.
it could work in different ways. But the way I see it is
Mhm.
that for me, when there is a bug like that, you don't take a break immediately. You want to spend as much time as possible. So what is happening is that as you are sort of like obsessed with it, and as you're obsessed with it, you're gathering lots of information. You are gathering lots of information about what is going on. So by the time you
Okay.
finally take a break, what happens is that your brain is not able to like settle on those information that you've gathered during that period, and is not able to like pick the best part. So it's like at first you're like, this can happen. Why would this happen? This should not happen. So you're gathering
Yeah.
lots of information. You are testing it. You are testing this isolation, testing this system, looking at the stack trace, looking at the log. And so at that point, it's like you're just accumulating so much information, but you're not relaxed enough to like look at the what's it called to like look back at the information you've taken. So by the time you now
Yeah.
take a page, you're sipping water or something, you'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, oh, this should have been here, this should have been here. So I think that's basically what is happening. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I 100% agree with you because some people say, oh, well, I just decided to just, go out for a walk and I came back and I kind of like thought about stuff and I just put that in and it
yeah.
works.
Yeah, exactly. Even it could even be when you're sleeping. So sometimes it could be like you spend so much time and you just go to bed and you just probably dream about it. So it's not like God is putting the brain in the solution in your brain. What happens is that at that time your subconscious is able to like look at those data have accumulated throughout the whole day, been worried about it, and it just
Yeah.
comes out you find a solution where you're set.
Yeah. Also, and that's definitely a good tip, I guess when it breaks, take a walk.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great. So now, if you were on an island, you're trapped in an island, maybe one of the Maldives, Seychelles, you just with the water, the waves, and all those kind of like really nice environment. And you were trapped, with and you had to choose just one programming language while being trapped in that island. What would you choose?
I would choose C. Reason being that I know
Really?
I would choose C.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Why?
yeah, yeah,
Why?
because I know I won't be handicapped in wherever scenarios I find myself. It might not be the fastest language. I want to I want to build probably the what's it called, an application with the lowest memory footprint. I want to
Okay.
pick, so I will not want to pick the maybe things like Python where I probably have to, I have to find a way to compile it back to C++ plus plus. Some of the cases, find some library that is not working. So if I'm stuck
Okay.
with programming language on an island, I'm definitely picking C. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good to know. Okay. And what's the most ridiculous bug fix you've ever completed that actually worked?
I think the most ridiculous bug fix was actually the funniest, like it's so ridiculous because it was during my internship. I still remember it. So that's so many years
Okay.
ago. So it was actually my first time of what's it called of working in PHP. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I think that very well. But I think in PHP there is I think to concatenate strings you use dot. I can't remember very well anymore. But in other
Okay.
language you use plus. So for me, it's like
Okay.
I was looking at the program language and I was using plus, and everything looks like very normal because you use plus to add strings in most other languages, stuff like that. But over here in
Okay.
PHP, you are using dots. So I think I
Okay.
I was reading the plus and everything makes sense to me. And I spent an hour trying to find the error. And they're like, this looks very well. So you actually see the error, but because of
Yeah.
PHP is not complaining, it just gives you whatever output it thinks is the best, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I spent trial and error just going through it, only to find out the reason was because I was using a plus rather than using a what's it called, a dot. So that was literally the most ridiculous. I think I won't call, should I call it a bug? I won't call it a bug, but that was like the most ridiculous issue I've had to face when it comes to like something, because it was like literally different programming language and using a plus rather than a dot. But that was like so many years ago now, but it's so ridiculous because it's so ridiculous and I can still remember it. So yeah, yeah.
Awesome. I mean, you spoke about PHP, and that's kind of like one of the OGs of programming languages.
Yeah.
It's still using it up to today.
That's what I found out. Like I saw that there's this framework called the Laravel, and they've
Laravel.
moved into like a cloud environment where you cannot deploy your PHP into a much more cloud native environment. I don't know if they've found any sort of optimization to make it as fast, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh wow, this language is still alive. I was really they even raised like the framework kind of raised like I think $30 million last year. So it means that I was surprised too. So it means that the companies that they built their systems on PHP, and like I said, there is I think it's called is it Lara Cloud or Lara Con or something, but it's more of like a cloud native environment for you to deploy PHP. Like I said, I assume they would have done some optimization to make PHP run faster there, because otherwise, if it's just the same old servers, then you could have deployed it anywhere you like. So yeah, I'm surprised it's still alive and kicking, Yeah.
That is good. That is really good to know, because I mean, I was like, when you mentioned PHP, I was like, oh, okay.
I was surprised because I honestly I thought maybe people have stopped using that language. And that's my. But when I saw that they raised $30 million last year, and I was like, what? What people are still using this language? So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this question, I think it's something that I'm really eager to know your answer about this question, because, I think most developers, and not just developers, but also, young innovators who are coming into the tech industry, who are trying to like navigate their way through the tech industry, would also want to understand how someone like you with your years of experience, it's not even years, I think now you're going into decades of experience, since you started in 2009, you've been able to mentally prepare for full stack project. So, from design to architecture to before you even get to implementation. So how do you mentally prepare for projects like this?
Yeah, sure. Like someone said recently, he said your years of experience, your experience is not measured in years, it's measured in projects. Yeah, so the more you work on projects, that's the more you can gain this knowledge. You understand? So for me, it wasn't like I set out, oh, okay, this month I'm going to learn Angular, this month I'm going to learn React, this month I'm going to learn all of these things. So, but it turns out the more you work on this project, especially projects that pushes you outside of your comfort zone, the more you gain this experience. So there is no one book, there's no one process that's going to give you the experience that you need. What will give you that is you working on projects that actually pushes you outside of your comfort zone. And you don't want to just be maintaining, you just don't want to be working on a project where the only thing you're doing is just changing the bottle color. You understand? So you want to so you want to work on a project where you are you actually like working from right from the inception, during the collecting requirements, designing it, deploying to production. You want to see it through, that kind of thing. So I encourage that possible, work once in a while, work on an existing project, because you can actually learn a lot from legacy projects that have been done, what have been done. I know most developers don't like to read other people's projects, because it means that you have to understand their mistake, and in most cases live with their mistake. But in some cases, you to actually read, to learn some things that you won't have thought about. Actually, so it's good to like once in a while actually work on existing projects, especially ones that were very well written. So Of course, you won't know the ones that are well written until you work with so many. So you can't just say, "Oh, I have to find the ones that is properly written." Just have to keep working with much as possible, but also as well work with a greenfield projects. Work with project where they're getting the requirement, to see them getting the requirement, to see them designing the system, asking questions. Oh, why should we use it this way? Why should we do that? As much as possible. And the more you do that, the more you'll be able to like, okay, even by yourself, be able to like, undo projects right from requirements gathering to design, implementation, to production, to observability. So there's also the part of like, when you've deployed to production, that's not the end of the work. You have to put a lot of monitoring and
Yeah,
observability tools around this, because when it breaks, you don't want your customer be the first person to find out. You should be the first person to find out, that kind of thing. So it's also good for you to work on projects like that as well too. So yeah,
great. So
yeah,
basically, you're saying, apart from just working on this project and looking at, um, past legacy projects and but mentally, do you kind of like maybe, okay, if I know that I'm going to be working on this project, in a couple of weeks, maybe I've been debriefed by the product manager or the lead team, and to prepare themselves for all of these things you just said, do you kind of like maybe just sleep, get enough rest, or you just do something fun, or how do you kind of like mentally, pretty much? Because it's a lot, because what you just said now is a lot, right? You're not just changing colors in a button, but
yeah.
you are, doing, you're literally gonna do the whole cycle, the whole software development cycle. So how do you sort of like mentally prepare for it?
Honestly, I don't think I'm so deeply or now mentally I prepare for it. I think it's over the years I've built my endurance. It's just like
Okay.
that's basically what it is. It's like when you go to the treadmill, the first time you step on the
Yeah.
treadmill, you probably code it to like 50 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And after a while, you push yourself to like 13 kilometers per hour on the treadmill. And before you
Yes.
do 30 minutes, before you know it, you're doing 1 hour. That kind of
Yes.
thing. Just talking about treadmill. And one of the problems with actually running on a treadmill is that you're literally doing nothing. You're just on a single spot, just to running. So your mind will have to wander. So you have to find a way to keep your mind in such a way that you don't mind doing that stuff for 1 hour, just running on a single spot. And I think it's the thing that applies to like software development. You build that endurance, with that endurance by working on so many projects. At the beginning, it may be difficult. I just finished this project that is meant to like fly to the moon. Then the next
Yeah.
thing, working on a project that's meant to like swim underwater. Yeah. So like your brain is like moving across two different domains. So, but honestly, I don't think there's a way for you to prepare your brain for it unless you just keep working on several of those projects. Of course, if you can't take a rest, 1 week or so, but that's not going to make any difference. You're still coming back to that same project. So I think the matter of like just pace yourself. This is more of a marathon rather than a sprint. Of course, there are times where you have to sprint, especially when the days and the but most of the marathon, of course, don't drag your foot. Like I said, you want to work as your experience is measured in projects, not in years. So you don't want to drag your foot as well, that kind of thing. So, but at the same time, you just have to understand that you just have to like over time build your experience. There's no way you can build your mentality and your endurance without just working on several projects. So yeah.
Honestly, I completely agree with you. I think the whole resilient thing towards building or working on a full stack project is definitely hinged on knowing that it's a marathon and not a sprint, like you said. And of course, every step you take is definitely a really it's kind of like a first. Kind of like a first step to succeeding in building
Yeah.
a full stack project. So that is really awesome.
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to start from, like I said, you don't even have to start from full stack. If you want to start from a front end, you can start from front end. If you want to start from back end, you can start from back end. But like I said, as you keep working on more projects, by the time
Yeah.
that tends to learn, you end up crossing to the other side and doing it alongside the other skills, because there are times where you just want to do something on the back end and you just don't want to wait for the back end developer. So to be good, if you can like fork their project, contribute to the staff,
Yes.
and
I know, right?
Okay, I remember there was one time I was working on a backend project, and the front end developer guy was like, it doesn't know how he was going to implement the solution, and I was like, don't worry, I'm going to implement that feature. And he was surprised. He was like, I'm supposed to work on the backend. I was like, yeah, because but I can do your work as well. That kind of thing. Good for as you keep building more of these skills, you're not scared to like, okay, it's time for me to work on the backend. It's time for me to work on networking. It's time for me to work on infrastructure. But as much as I keep pushing yourself, you won't find yourself in a situation where it's just everything is just on a single narrow road. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. That's such a great advice. So, we are in the technology trend where AI is trending.
yeah.
It's gone way, of course, gone way above the buzzwords now. We are really seeing the true value of AI. So, what's your take on artificial intelligence?
So currently, right now, I would still prefer to call them LLMs, which is large language models, and I'll call them artificial intelligence. Because what we have,
Why?
what we have right now is that we have a system, we have a, should I say, an algorithm that
Okay.
is transformer in this case. We have a model, whatever you want to call it, a framework. We have a sort of like lots of an algorithm called, let me just call it transformer for now, where
Okay.
given that can learn, given a set of examples. So
Hmm.
whatever examples you can give it can learn on that examples. And in most cases, 80% of the time, it can it can replicate and perform on on cases around that examples. But anything aside from that, it's gonna perform woefully. So that is not intelligence, that is just learning. So that's why, as very smart as as good as the ChatGPT is, today, if you plug ChatGPT to your car as the driverless system, you are going to have a you understand? That's how very, because this is because ChatGPT has been trained on lots of examples of tokens of text, trillions of tokens to begin with. So these people
Okay.
understand, in most cases, they have multidimensional understanding when it comes to this test world. But at the same time, like I said, anything outside of their training data, they perform woefully. That's why you can see something like maybe O3 Mini, which is like the latest model that OpenAI released. You can see it perform maybe like, they say it's like 175th percentile on the software programming, on the software developers, but you still give it a simple code to write, and it's going to write rubbish. That's the funny thing.
It's going to
Yeah, it's still gonna write rubbish. So right, it's not optimized. You start with, okay, do it like this, make it optimized. So it's very glaring that now we have a system where if you give it lots of examples, and that's why I won't call it artificial intelligence, but LLM is still the best. So yeah, if you give it lots of examples, lots of this thing, it can learn on those examples. And when you give it questions on those examples, on those environments, in most
Yeah.
cases, 80% of the time you get something close to what you want. But anything
Okay.
outside of that training data, it
Yeah.
becomes, you're not sure what you're gonna get. Absolutely not sure at all. So to me, that's
Okay.
not intelligence. That is more of like a system that could really, really learn. But yeah.
Okay. I love your perspective to it.
Yeah.
So which would you call an artificial intelligence? Which one would you call artificial
For
intelligence?
now, we don't have any true artificial intelligence system. I think what we do when we have a system that could actually like learn something about a particular subject, then given a
Okay.
subject that it was never trained on, be able to like transfer that understanding or that
Yeah.
knowledge. So that would be the first one of the true signs of intelligence. That, okay, yeah, you learned something about this particular subject, but you can transfer that knowledge to a completely different knowledge and still perform equally as good in that subject that it was never trained on. You get your point. And the second thing is common sense, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Common sense, even the so-called reasoning models, that kind of thing. Now
Okay.
they can pass the strawberry test, but in some cases, if you increase, well, if you had like 5 more at the strawberry, in some cases they
Yeah.
still, that kind of thing. That's to tell you that
Yeah.
there's no intelligence in those systems. They've been trained on copious of tests. So for now, we actually don't have intelligent system, but we have systems that have really, really learned on several examples. And as long as you have data, as long as your what's it called, your work, what you're working on fits
Mhm.
into that example space, in most cases you get very good result. But anything outside of that, then you are on your own. Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. And because you talked about artificial intelligence, and that brings me to the fact that what we call artificial intelligence today is, kind of like back in the days, there were things that we kind of like when you see how it was.
Evolutionary, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
See, like there are some things that we used to do back then that were also artificial intelligence, but of course we didn't call it artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really good to see different perspective on this topic, because I think it's definitely going to be a really broad topic where as time goes on, as the years go by, I do believe that there's going to be way more innovation on artificial intelligence. But to be more specific about how AI is used today, I mean, there's this controversial topic that AI is going to take people's jobs, because obviously, you have things like ChatGPT, and now we have even DeepSeek, which is kind of like making headlines. There is no feeds. I go on LinkedIn and I don't see a post on. If I had $1 for every time I go on LinkedIn and see a post on DeepSeek, I probably would be so rich today.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So with that, where do you think it's, do you, with that controversy going on, like AI is going to take everyone's job, it's even software developers are not even left behind, because we've got co-pilots doing the whole thing. So what's your take on it?
I wouldn't have a joke about that. I joke that it's good news for the developers. But before I get there, I said something before now. I said we have a system that could really learn. Like given examples on a particular subject, it could learn all the possibilities of those particular subjects. And in most cases, 80% of the time gets very well on those subjects in real world examples. So for instance, when you take something like languages, I think over the past, I don't know, when was writing invented? Maybe let's say, for instance, maybe like 1,500 years ago. That was when possibly writing was invented. So over those times, we've accumulated so many edge cases about writing, about languages. So right now, it's like in most cases, there's very little edge cases in language that you will not find written in text. And that is why last year, what's it called? These LLMs are very good in languages because they've learned all the possible edge cases you can ever find in languages. And with that, you can never beat them on that. You can never actually beat them on languages in most cases, because like I said, they've learned all the edge cases. And the more you find subjects where you could actually cover all the edge cases, you could cover all of those cases, and you can find lots of examples of them, and you train a transfer model on it, it will always outperform a human. That is given. Now, the problem is that there are jobs where there are very few edge cases, and there are jobs that are very, very low edge cases. You get your point. So, for instance, if you take the job of a traveling agent, of a traveling agency, the edge cases of a traveling agent, agent will be different from, let's say, for instance, a software engineer. So it means that in a very short period of time, you can collect like data that covers like 90% of what a travel agent will do. So it means that you have a system trained on those data. In most cases, it's able to replicate what a travel agent could actually do. And that's what we have right now. So we have a system that really, really learn, giving lots of examples. And the less edge cases your jobs have, the more you are subjected to be out of job, because that's just the reality. Yeah, that's just the very simple reality, that kind of thing. There's no doubt that this transfer model, they can really, really, really learn. Now, that jobs are very crazy, what's it called, edge cases that you can never for them, And the funniest thing is that one of them is actually software engineering. Because when you are doing software engineering, even though you're writing a function, in most cases, software engineering tries to cover the business edge cases, what's it called, the edge cases that are posed in the business. And that is like, because sometimes working over it. So software engineering is never a one-way straightforward, that okay, this business has this problem, and you give them the software, and the next day they start using it. It has never been like that, and it won't be like that. So even if you have an AGI that could give you a perfect system today, Like the AGI is going to spend months working with stakeholders to define the requirements. It should work like this. It should work like this. So there are lots of always edge cases when it comes to like software engineering, because aside from the system, you're also interfacing with the real world to translate the requirements down to what the system will do. And there's no way you're going to have a system that can be trained on all of those edge cases. So but like I said, the joke I was going to say was that people, someone said that people felt like AI is going to replace software engineers. He said, but
Yeah.
that software engineers are
It was
building.
Mark Zuckerberg that said that, though, because I remember it said in next year, half of Meta's engineers
Yeah,
will be replaced
yeah,
with AI.
yeah.
That was what he said.
But but the point was, the point on that tweet said was that people think that AI will replace software engineers, but what's
Yeah.
actually going on is that software engineers are building agents to replace every job. So before people start, before people start scared of AI taking their job, they should be scared of software engineers building systems that are actually taking those jobs. Because now we have agents for lawyers, we have
Yeah.
agents for data analysts, we have the AI engineers. Guess who's building those agents? Not the time is the software engineers that are building them. So before we even get to the point where AI is taking that could take everybody's job, software engineers
Yeah.
have built like 80% of those jobs as agents. So yeah, see, if you want to be scared of people right now, honestly, they should look at the software engineers and be scared of them. That's the reality of it. So, but what we have right now, like I said, what we have right now is I it's not gonna take all jobs. That's the reality. Like the system we have
Yeah.
right now, it's not gonna take. But like I said, the more your job role has very little edge cases, the more your job role has lots of examples, the more
Okay.
AI can be trained on it. That's just a very simple truth. So, like for instance, take a customer care representative. You have very little edge cases, very little ones. I'm not saying there are no edge cases, but very little. What do you do? It
Yeah.
comes in, you look at the information that is in the company's data, you try to
Yeah.
answer the customer based on that data. That is literally what 90% of what customer representative is about. And that is why
Okay.
the first thing people did, the first thing software engineer did was to build agents to replace software representatives. So yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the reality. So yeah, so my advice for what's it called for software engineers is that find find the problem space, even if it's your own problem space. Try to, as much as possible, try to build agents around it. Like try to automate it with AI. It's not gonna get 60%. It's not gonna get, in most cases, lots of it. But the more the models are getting better, the more the tax will get better, and the more you stand a better chance. And for people that like doing things that are not software engineer, I will encourage you, if you are doing things that doesn't have very few edge cases, that is very straightforward, that maybe you're used to your job where you say you can do your job in your sleep, then literally go and do that job. Like not do a job where everything is just very like, is it like a single line? Because like I said, it's easy for people to come up with lots of examples to train AI model on those cases, and before you know it, you're out of jobs. So yeah.
So, because when you said, you gave a very good example of, having jobs that are sort of like really talks, there's just talks, you just have like a start and a finish talks, like the customer representative that you said, which now we already have chatbots replacing a lot of customer representatives.
Yeah.
Just customer service is probably likely going
Yeah.
to replace chatbots are likely going to replace customer service. So
Yeah.
can you think of any like job roles that you think AI might just create? This is actually an avenue, because you said something that was really significant. Like when software developers realized that, well, they could create different agents that could serve the purpose in different professions, different industries. That was kind of like an opportunity for them to kind of like, well, we're still gonna be, be here doing the work that we do.
Yeah.
So do you actually think that, for other people, for other professions, or for professions that people don't, have not even thought about,
Yeah.
how AI can kind of like create jobs, and what
Yeah.
kind of jobs can create for people?
Yeah.
Software engineers realized that they could actually use AI, you
Yeah.
know, to create AI to create agents for different industries or different professions. What do you think AI can actually create in terms of now, after all of these agents have been created, how can people then enhance these agents to create more jobs, rather than focusing on the fact that, oh, we're all saying, oh, AI is going to take my job because, my job is very, um, it's just like tax related, and it can be kind of like scheduled as tasks and be completed by a large language model.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think that, what other opportunities are out there that you think that AI can actually create for people?
The funny thing is that I'm not sure anybody knows that. I'm not sure anybody because it's like we're having a sort of like a chicken and egg problem. It's like
Okay,
you can upskill yourself in some areas, but the
okay.
problem is that what if before you finish upskilling yourself, they've
Hmm.
not AI on that particular skill. You get the point. So it now becomes okay. You finish upskilling, but by the time you get there, you already have like an AI that's already exhausted that particular skill. So yeah, It's a very difficult. We don't know if we're going to get AGI. I wish to kind of like, okay, so what are you even learning to skill? When at the end of the day, there could be AGI. But the truth matter is that we are not closer to AGI than we were even years before. Of course, some Ottoman want to make you to believe that AGI, they have AGI internally, but we don't have AGI. So we don't know when AGI will come. But the advice I can give to people is that, like I said, we
Hmm.
have a system, we have a framework, which is this transformer that could actually really learn. That's the truth of the matter. And if we have a system that could learn and we
Hmm.
produce even 60% of whatever you are doing, so it means that 60% that could be automated. So it means
Okay.
whatever job you are doing, what you want to do is that you want to keep asking yourself, how can you
Mhm.
automate doing with AI? Whatever,
Mhm.
whatever it is, even if you're a travel agent, no matter what you're doing, you want to ask yourself, these things I'm doing, where are the things that could be automated? And when you find
Mhm.
out, can you find a way? Maybe you probably work with someone that has the ability, or you could learn it, that kind of thing. Now it is that for people to actually learn. So you could learn on such a way that you could build out on that automation, and you can
Mhm.
sell people, companies, and stuff because you've literally automated 60% of what even yourself used to spend time on. So it's a win for the company, it's a win for you. So,
Mhm.
and the day, like I said, the truth of the matter is that the fact that we have AI does not mean some what's it called? All the problems that we've had in the past few years are going to disappear. No, it doesn't. Traveling doesn't mean that people don't still need a customer representative. No, people still require them, but now is that we now have systems doing that. So a lot of the job roles that people have will actually still be existing even 10, 20 years from now. The only question is that how much of it is going to be done by computer, by AI, so to say. So
Yeah.
what you need to do is that based on your experience, if you spend so many years in your particular field, that kind of thing, is it possible for you to work with someone or learn by yourself and try to replace yourself before you
Mhm.
exactly. So see if you can actually build a system, see if you can work with an AI, someone that understands AI, or you should, and see if you can create a system in such a way that you could automate 60% of what you do. And when you do that, turn it into a product, like your company is employing you because they want something done. And now you're
Mhm.
telling them a way to have something that can do 60% of what I used to do, and it doesn't go to bed, that kind of thing. And you can
Yeah.
sell that same solution to many other companies. And I think the truth of the matter is that I think just like the way we have 1 million people doing a particular job, we are going to have so many agents, AI doing so many. And I don't think it's going to be like one AI company taking all over those job roles. So there'll be
Mm.
companies coming up with their own solution of a particular job role. So I think
Mhm.
that gives the opportunity for everybody, for like lots of companies to come up with their own agents. You understand? So you can have 1 million AI data analyst agents employed by
Mhm.
companies. Even some companies could hire like 5 different AI agents from 5 different companies. That kind of thing. I think that's the world we're going to move into, where most of the 50% of what you are doing could be done by computers. Take a look at the teachers. Teachers spend a lot of time on, coming up with syllabus, writing of these things. But some of them, that 60% of what teachers could do could actually be automated with AI. So if you're a teacher and you find a way to even do that, turn into a product, sell it to people, sell it to you can start by selling by even giving it as a free tool to your company, From there, let them get you, let them get better. Then from there, you turn it to a product and you sell it to other companies. So for me, that's
Yeah.
the way I see it. Like everybody needs to know how to use AI. And I don't mean know by just type into ChatGPT, but how to like use such a way that to build a system that you could make some sections of it. And I think that's to me the best way to go about it.
Awesome. Like I've learned so much. So basically the first step is adopt AI into regardless of the profession you come from.
Yeah.
Try as much as possible to adopt it for productivity. So basically if you were let's go back to the customer care representative and chatbot, doing most of what customer care representative would do. So basically you're saying, well, now you have to think of innovative ways. And funny enough, you could actually use the same AI to think of innovative ways to
Yeah,
sort of like
exactly.
more opportunity for
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Okay,
the
okay,
truth.
okay.
Yeah.
That is so great. You said something that was really, really catchy, and you mentioned of how people now are even using AI to build products, and that brings me to your products that you build. So could you tell us a bit about your products and what your product's all about? And you could kind of like spill some tea, about your products.
Yeah, so my product is called the easyapply.ai. So the idea is that now we have several job boards. You have LinkedIn, you have Indeed, you have even companies boards. And most questions are, how do you find the jobs you are looking for? Easily, if you're looking for a job, you can go through all of this like job board. So the first question is there a way for you to have all of these jobs in a single place? At least look at them. You can decide to apply wherever you want to apply them. So that was the idea. So it was like a Google for job boards where you can sit on top of all these jobs board and find the job you're looking for. Then the next question, when you found the job, the best person for you is a resume. That's the reality. So when a recruiter sees they're not seeing you, they think they are seeing is your resume. And the funny thing, we're living the age of AI. So it's not even the recruiter that is only seeing your resume. The AI that's also looking at your resume. So what Easy Apply does is now to like optimize your resume for that job. Yeah, because there are several ways to sell yourself. You get your point. And for every job, there are different ways you have to sell yourself. And that is what Easy Apply does. So Easy Apply does is to look at the job, look at your resume, then be the best salesperson for you. You understand? Give you the best resume that you can use to land that job. Like I said, it's not just the recruiter that is looking at the job. Yeah, is looking at the job. It's like, oh, okay, how good is this person in Java? How good is he?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the AI is asking lots of questions based on that resume. So what we've done is to optimize your resume in such a way that it gives you the best chance. We're not trying to learn your resume, so we're not giving you certifications like but in such a way,
Tell you what you cannot do. Don't add what
yeah, but in such a way that when somebody is really think you can do, they can have more confidence in the fact the person can do this stuff. So that's what is applied does. You understand? Making sure that you easily find the jobs, give you the best resume that you need for the job, and stuff like that. So when the way you're done, it also gives you like practice questions where you can practice some questions pending the interview, that kind of thing. So the whole idea is to look at the journey of a job seeker, from searching for a job, finding a resume, and practicing for a question. So that is literally what Easy Apply does for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Easy Apply now is live, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you go to EZYAPPLY.ai, which is easyapply.ai, you can start using it for free. Yeah.
Awesome. And congratulations on launching your products.
Yeah,
I mean, I can only imagine, the sleepless nights.
really.
I mean, the journey, So what really inspired you to create this product? Like, how did you come about Easy Apply? Like, what motivated you?
So actually, it started with one of my friends. So when he got to the UK, so it happens that a lot of times he was sent resumes, and most times he won't get called back. And this was someone that I've worked with in Nigeria, and he was quite really, really good. Like he was he's really, really good. But like I said, if you don't put the best resume forward, it doesn't matter how good you are, you
Mm-hmm.
nobody's gonna call you back, that kind of thing. So what we did was that, okay, he called me then, and we're like, okay, let's try optimizing your resume. So we used what's it called, ChatGPT. Then we'll go and look for the job. We'll copy it, put in ChatGPT. A lot of very manual stuff were going on to get the
Yeah.
resume you want. And when you're done, you start to
Mm-hmm.
copy ChatGPT, put it into Word document. So
Yeah.
many steps just to have a single resume, and that's just for a single job. Nobody ever sends a single job application. You don't you don't just do that. So imagine spending close to like 2 hours trying to get the best resume, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just a single application. How many jobs can you apply for in a single day? So that's the inspiration behind this. So I saw what you went through, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
why don't we what's it called, make this thing into a service, where people can
Mm-hmm.
just in the job, put in their resume, and within literally 2 minutes, you have a resume that's been tailored specifically for you for that job. So yeah, that was literally the inspiration behind the Easy Apply.
Awesome. And how was the process like when you were creating your product?
Yeah, so for me, so of course, it was quite so over the years, I've what they call, of course, I've worked on several projects, so I always know where to get it. So, like I said, we already started manually, so we knew exactly what we wanted. So,
Okay.
and for me, I've always designed written my code as a domain driven design. So, yeah, so the first one was identify the different domains that should be in the application. So you have the user service authentication, you have the crawler domain, which is responsible for like fetching several jobs. You have the portfolio domain, which is responsible for the candidate section, stuff like that. So you start on breaking down the domains, then within those domains, what was it called, design the database systems and stuff like that. After designing the system, then you start writing the application. So it's like that kind of like bottom approach. So I'm not the type that uses a
Fresh.
yeah, exactly. I'm not the type that uses a full AI to write my project. I still don't think very well when it comes to like writing a full project. But when it comes to like writing functions, you give a function, you can get something very good. And that's why I say that we don't have AGI yet, and not even anytime close. And like I said,
Well,
if you
Sam has promised us AGI though. So I'm
yeah,
up.
I think it's vibing. So maybe sometimes we'll see something that really blows him off. I'm like, oh, okay, AGI is coming. Yeah, so he keeps. I think it's very normal as a CEO of a big company when you're working something like that. Like this, where you're blown off with what you can do, and the other this where it just looks very, very, very dumb. That kind of thing. So yeah. So, but the truth of the matter is, what's it called? Building Easy Apply starts from looking at the problem, breaking into domains, into services, actions, models, and overlaying it like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay,
Yeah.
good. And when you kind of like, started, building, like, did you come, were there challenges? Like, were there things that you're like, oh my God, why did I start? You know that question.
Those AI systems could be very,
Okay.
those systems could be very, very funny. You understand? So you could be like, you want something, and
Mm-hmm.
5 out of 6 times it will work. And one of that time it will not work. The reason why it doesn't work doesn't even make any sense. So it requires lots of optimization to make sure that a single task really works well. So you have to like, have lots of like sort of like a workflow system that okay, if it doesn't really work, how do you know when it doesn't work? How many
Mm-hmm.
and you will try to ensure that it eventually works. So that's love the steps. So it's like sometimes I'll be demoing something to my colleague and he'll be like, oh wow, this is nice. And okay, let's try it in and it will just fuck up. You understand? So the what we learned was a way for you to like most of the time break these tasks to as break those workflow to as little tasks as possible. But even in every task, you have to have a workflow that knows when things are perfect and when it's not perfect, and find a way to retry it until you get it right. So that's one of the funny things of working with AI systems, and that's why I'm like, if you are whatever job you are working on, find a way to work with the current AI systems. But the truth of the matter is that they don't always get it right. So you have to find a way to build a workflow, a pipeline, in such a way that every single task you can try it until you get exactly what you're looking for. So yeah, that was it's sort of like a very funny situation I found myself building as the apply. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And anyway, but the great news is that you got the product finished, you got it
Yeah.
out there, it's live. So
Yeah.
that is definitely a win for you. Okay, so I mean, just thinking about, all of your achievements over the years and all your projects you worked on, is there anything you would want to change if you had like I think Elon calls it a teleport that takes you back in time. Would you want to change anything in your career over the years? Is there anything you would want to change?
I think the first thing I want to change is not actually change. I think I want to tell myself to even fail fast more often, rather than trying to like dilly dally on something. Try to
Okay.
fail fast more often. Like within 2 or 3 years, move very fast. Time is of the more is of the essence. That kind of thing. So I think that's the first advice I want to give to myself. I'm always the type that always like pushes myself to work harder, but I want to like, okay, James, you need to like even like break things faster. Of course, not really. You have to move.
Mm,
That is it. So, and I think at the same time, like I also suggested, I think one thing I learned towards, after years of my experience was that it's actually very good. It's because to actually read other people's code than reading yours. It's very difficult to do because, like I said, it means that you have to think like them. But the truth of the matter is that if you end up finding codes of people that you didn't, those you call that are very smart, you learn from them. So yeah,
mm,
reading old people's code, reading codes that know everything before you, like you could actually learn a lot from it. So I think if there is one advice I would give to my younger self, I'm like, don't be quick to start a new project. If like, software engineers, if they see it, like, let's do it all over again. Yeah, yeah. But rather than to start a new project, try to like read and learn that project. Of course, there are some projects that are very terrible. I won't lie. Like there's some projects that requires to be started from scratch. But at the same time, try to see if you can learn from those projects, from those good projects, and that's actually one of the fastest way to learn than always what's it called, writing the code by yourself. So yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I think my takeaway, because kind of like felt like you were kind of motivating me as well, is to make sure that you break things, well, break it in a way that you're learning what broke and why it broke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the fact that just try it all, just try it all, and yeah, and see how you can sort of like put things back in place, and I think that's your feeding forward
Yeah.
argument,
Yeah.
which is really great. It's
Yeah,
so
that's the
good.
only way to learn because you can read a book about something in software engineering, but software engineering is one of it's more practical. You have to like practicalize whatever you've learned, test it out, and the best way to do that is by working on a project that allows you to do that. So yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have the final question for you. um, what advice do you have for young innovators who are thinking, oh, well, I want to get into the tech industry. I don't know where to start from, or I don't know what programming language to learn. Or there's just simply, I've watched your podcast on Tech Laughs and Bytes, and they're like, oh, I want to be like James. I want to be so good in C. I want to be so good in Java. I want to
Yeah.
create my own products. I
Yeah.
want to, I want to learn all of the programming languages, PHP, JavaScript, and all of that.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them?
Okay, so I think the first thing is that you want to pick a programming language that maybe the person I recommended for you, if you are fond of the person. I've known people that went to go and pick Java simply because of James. Like, oh, okay, James started.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, that was going to be a very good decision for them. And there are people that have started with JavaScript, and after the time they learn other languages as well. And then, so I think the first thing is that if whichever you found first, it's
Yeah.
not stick what's it called, go along with it, because you're not gonna learn just that alone, so whatever you
Yeah.
find was good, but try to just don't learn it on the shallow, try to learn it
Yeah.
as deeply as possible, and that is where reading other people's code comes in, because by the time you learn even something as simple as JavaScript at the beginning, by the time you
Mhm.
start with other people's code, you'll be like, oh wow, okay, so you do this now, so you can do it like this, and you start finding things that you never even knew were possible because your book only gave you one perspective of the way the book was written, how it could be done. But by the time you read several other people's code, how it's been done, work on projects, you'll be messing around like, oh, okay, wow, you've learned so much. And by the time you know, like move into other projects where they require you to learn a different programming language. Don't be scared. Don't be like, oh, this is language you understand. Pick it up, that kind of thing. Learn about it as well. Compare it with the one you already knew. And start from there. So don't start what's it called? Don't try to a room was not built in a day, that kind of thing. So whatever programming language appealed to you the first time, maybe it was your brother that knows PHP and is asking to go and learn PHP, or your brother knows Rust and is asking to learn Rust, whatever language anybody recommended for you. And if you can find someone that is probably good in that environment, just go for it. It's just a stepping stone. It doesn't define your career. You just want to get started, and getting started is the most difficult and the most important thing. That's just the reality. So it doesn't matter if you pick even basic. There are people that decide now, people that saying that in programming language is basic, but from basic they move into like much more serious programming language. So it doesn't matter where you start from, but two things: start now, and when you start as move very very fast. You don't want to keep dilly-dallying. Like someone used to say, said you can either decide to clean your room for a month or clean it in 3 hours. Both of them is cleaning your room. So you can choose wherever you can choose, but I was best to clean it in 3 hours. So the same thing too. So get started now, but don't say, oh, today you will learn 1 hour, then you come back next week again, learn 1 hour. No, you want to move as fast as possible. So yeah.
Awesome. That has been so encouraging, honestly, because I totally agree with everything you said about the advice, that young people can definitely start, even if it's from the V basic to, before they get to learn how to use Java. And it's just at the end of the day, I think it's just what they find comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been an amazing time with you, James, on Tech and Bytes, and I've certainly had fun, and I'm sure people who would watch this podcast definitely would enjoy it, and but most importantly, learn valuable lessons as well from you being a senior software developer and a product owner. And so I would say thank you for being on the podcast today. And all the best in your products. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, have a nice day.
You too. Check. Bye.